All your notes, you want to put in a pile. All your notes that you use, you want to turn in. Okay?
Okay. Oh.
So you guys, all your notes, organize them and put them together in the center of your
Take
table
some video.
before the end of class. Okay, and put your phones away now. Dr. Jekyll and Frankenstein. One second. Okay, ready?
Mẹ chị video là dùng rất.
You gonna turn it on?
Yes.
Okay. Phones away. Completely away. No, you guys, I will give you 0 if you use your phone. Lisa. Her old. Don't even think about it. Okay. Yes.
Good morning. We are Kietnam, and today we are going to talk about the compare and contrast the theme and symbolism of Jekyll Hyde and Phantom of the Opera. If you have any questions, we are happy to answer in the end. Our presentation divided in 3 main parts. So, Jekyll and Hyde was written by Robert Louis Stevenson. He is a Scotland writer, and one of his famous novels is Treasure Island. Phantom of the Opera was written by Gaston Leroux. He is a French journalist and author of detective fiction. Both of the book was Gothic novel, but Jekyll and Hyde is more thriller and scientific. Both of them was written in 1980th century, and Phantom Opera was written about the opera house named Palais Garnier in Paris, France, and Jekyll and Hyde was written in Bournemouth, is in the south of London, England. And then Haley gonna talk about main character and plot.
Hi. Before we jump in to analyze the both 2 books, I'm gonna present to you about the main character and plots for you to summarize the 2 stories. The first is main character of Phantom of the Opera. So Eric, he's known as the Phantom of the Opera, but he's not a phantom. He's a man who's born with an ugly face, and he lived under the opera house. Christine Day, she's an opera singer from Norway. She came to Paris with her wish to become a famous opera singer, and she fell in love with Raoul, who is the Viscount of Charny, a famous and powerful family in France. In Jekyll and Hyde, there's 3 main characters, same as Phantom of the Opera. The first one is Mr. Utterson. He's a lawyer, an upstanding lawyer and friend of Dr. Jekyll. Dr. Jekyll is a prosperous man, a well-respected man in London community. And Mr. Hyde is known as Mr. Jekyll's creation by his scientists. About the plot of the story, I'm gonna go summary for you before we analyze the theme and the symbolism. Eric is a phantom of the opera. He's controlling the opera, and he fell in love with Christine. He trained Christine to be a opera singer famous in Paris. And Raoul, he's fallen in love with Christine after listening to her performance in the opera house. La Costa is before Christine performed. She's a famous singer in France, and she wants to stand up to get her position back, and it makes the phantom angry. So she lost her voice in her performance by the chandelier falling down. When Christine performed in the opera, Phantom kidnapped her to his house, and after that, Raoul followed to find Christine and fall into the torture room of the Phantom. In that case, Phantom forced Christine to choose between Phantom or Raoul. So Christine chose to save Raoul by kissing Phantom and wanted to be his wife. But Phantom realized that he realized his faults, and he left Christine to go with Raoul. They have a happy ending. About the plot of Jekyll and Hyde, it started by a mystery door that Mr. Utterson and his cousin Enfield walking through the door, and Elfin told the story about a strange man, deformed and cruel man who stumbled on a girl. They forced the man named Hyde to pay for the girl's family by a check with not his own name, but Mr. Utterson's name. Mr. Dr. Jekyll's name. After that, Mr. Utterson is a close friend and a lawyer of Dr. Jekyll. He received a letter from Dr. Jekyll that he wished to give all his assets when he died to Mr. Hyde. So Mr. Utterson came to their common friend, that's Dr. Lennon, and Dr. Lennon says that Dr. Jekyll's scientist is a scientist, and they're not friends anymore. So a month later, Mr. Hyde killed a man named Sir Danville Carroll by a can, and then he disappeared without trace. Dr. Jekyll confirmed that he has no related to Mr. Hyde anymore. A week later, their common friend Dr. Lyon died. Police is a faithful butler of Dr. Jekyll came to Utterson because he thinks that Dr. Jekyll is murdered by Mr. Hyde. When they broke down to the Dr. Jekyll's house, they found Mr. Hyde's dead body with the poisons, along with the letter about the true story about his scientist of creating Dr. Hyde, and a wish of giving on his assets to Mr. Utterson. And then my partner Alvin will present about the themes of the story.
was hard to find out difference of themes, so I should think deeper. So first of all, Dr. Jekyll and Hyde. The theme of Dr. Jekyll and Hyde is that the human has two inner minds, goodness and badness. The theme of Phantom of Opera was that the power of true love is stronger than anything. So let's start with common themes between the two books. First of all, the common things that the two books show is that the human has two different characteristics. Dr. Jekyll was kind, but he changed to evil man, Hyde, and also in Phantom of the Opera, the Eric was ugly, but he had really beautiful voice when he sing a song. A second common thing is that the both of antagonists had really bad appearance, and people in the character in the story were killed by antagonists mysteriously. I think the writer want to blame the lookism. Writer want to blame the people who evaluate person by appearance. The third common thing is that there were helpers in the character in the story. In the Dr. Jekyll and Hyde story, the servants helped Utterson to find out the truth, and in the Phantom Opera story, Parisian helped Raoul to save Kristen. I can see the writer's intention to defeat the evil in this part. So let's talk about differences between the two books. First different thing is that it's about the romance. You know, the story of opera had romantic story, but Dr. Jekyll and Hyde was little scientific. They were talking about only drug and experiments. I think it was lack of human things. The second different thing is that the story of opera had open resolution, and Dr. Jekyll had close conclusion. I think the open resolution make reader think about more about the future, and depending on the thought, the theme can be different. The third different thing is that whether main character know about the secret. I mean, in the Phantom of Opera, the main character Kristen knew about the secret, and she connected with Eric, but she couldn't call the police, which means she succumbed to reality. Succumb means that she acknowledged the reality. She accepted Eric. But in Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, Utterson didn't give up, even though there are a lot of mystery things, but he didn't give up, and he continued to try to find out the truth. Okay, from now, Brian will explain about explain symbolism of the two books.
Good beforenoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think symbolism is the hardest part of the speech. So I found total 6 symbols and divided into 3 different topics. First one is residence. In the Phantom of the Opera House is Phantom, which is Eric's, his house. His confidence came from the opera house because he built this opera house and he can make an unfortunate accident at his will. Also, he always took box number 5, which is the most expensive seat, because he's a builder of the opera house. So it symbolized Eric's confidence. I think opera house symbolized Eric's confidence. And next, Jekyll and Hyde. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in the same house, but Dr. Jekyll used front door and Mr. Hyde used back door. And also, in this book, it said Hyde used only 2 or 3 rooms, even though there are a lot of rooms, and this symbolized Hyde's limited development and his possession of only a few aspects of human psyche. Also, I think this home symbolized mystery of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So the difference is the opera house symbolized Eric's confidence, and everything happens in the opera house. However, in Jekyll and Hyde's house, it symbolized mystery of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And Jekyll's house is an important place, but not everything happens in this house. Next thing is symbols of hiding. As everyone knows, mask is a symbol of the opera house. But mask is not only hiding Eric's identity, but also it hides his ugly face. Also, mask made him ambiguous, so that mask allowed Eric to approach Christine easily. However, the physical changes and clothing is one of the symbols of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So, physical changes is the critical reason how Jekyll concealed himself as a Mr. Hyde. Because Mr. Hyde is smaller than Dr. Jekyll, and so the clothing should be changed because, as I said, Mr. Hyde is smaller than Dr. Jekyll. So the differences is mask used to hide Eric's identity and his ugly face, and clothing is used to hide Dr. Jekyll's identity. The last one is the backgrounds. So in the Phantom of the Opera, traps symbolize Eric's background. So readers can guess Eric's past stories when you see Eric's trap in his house. So, and the Jekyll, in the 1800s, gentlemen in England used walking sticks in general. And however, Mr. Hyde used a walking stick when he go out, and even killed people with these walking sticks. So if there's people who knows in the 1800s English gentleman use walking stick, knows that Mr. Hyde is not just a normal person. So reader can guess he was originally a gentleman or something. So the similarities is these two symbols make readers can guess these two characters' backgrounds. From now on, Bumi will introduce about conclusions.
To sum up, the biggest theme of Dr. Jekyll and Hyde is the good vs the evil. More specific is like the good vs the devil that exists in the man, and the struggle of two sides of human personality. And for the Phantom of the Opera, after Christine ran away with Raoul, the Phantom embraced the darkness of the opera, and is the place make him feel solace and respite from the outside world, which he's not a part of, but most of all is about true love is stronger than anything. So here is the reference. If you have any question, you can.
That's good.
Questions?
Questions?
Anybody? What's your favorite? Which book did you prefer and why?
I prefer Dr. Jekyll and Hyde because Phantom of the Opera is a little bit dramatic that I really don't like, and I really like reading book with like without science experiments, so I enjoy Dr. Jekyll and Hyde.
I prefer the Phantom of the Opera because I love romantic and romantic story. And in the end, when Phantom lets Christine go with Raoul, I'm moved by the action of Phantom. His finally still has good inside the evil.
For me, I prefer Phantom Opera too, because in the Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, the climax was really weak. I want some fighting scene, but the letter from Dr. Jekyll said only I decided to suicide himself, so it was weak.
For me, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is more interesting than the Phantom of the Opera, because after reading the book, there are a lot of things that I can think of, like in the theme of the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like good and evil or something. But I think in Phantom of the Opera, there's no thinking points in the book, so I prefer Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Why is the letter of Jekyll and Hyde not simple?
Symbolize?
Oh,
Not a symbol, so
why
The-
isn't letter? Why isn't
Letter?
in Jekyll and Hyde?
The letter,
When Hyde
Symbolize
got
letter.
dead in his house.
You mean letter? Because I focus on like topics and I want to fit in the topics. I found the letter as a symbol, but I can find the comparison symbols in the Phantom of the Opera, so I didn't put letter.
If you were Eric, when you get a kiss, how do you do? How do you do?
Katie, good luck.
Good luck.
Yes, good luck. Okay, I think I will do same
Same.
with Eric.
Um,
Because-
I'll just take her in school.
Kristen didn't love him.
Mm.
How about
She
you?
loved the ability of Eric. So I think I will let her go too. Next question. Oh.
How about you?
If I was Eric,
Yes.
how can I be Eric? Okay, so if I was Eric, I will. I think I will let her go because it's hard if we give someone like many love, but they didn't give us back. It's really hard to be together.
In the end of Dr. Zukyu and Hyde, Dr. Zukyu, he had to sacrifice himself. So you can, in the fight of good and evil, that means the good wins on the evil win.
I think good will wins because he decided suicide when he is in Jekyll. So we believe good wills win.
Do you think the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde totally separated?
Good question.
No, I don't think so.
Why?
Because
Drink water.
I'm metal, yes. Why?
Because I believe that inside a person there's always evil and angel. And Dr. Jekyll is always reveals the angel side, and Mr. Hyde's his hidden evil side. So it must be one person because always angel and evil in a person.
yeah, same.
Any other questions?
You want to ask?
Excellent.